What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on a 2002 Audi C5 S6. Today on the S6 behind me, we're going to be covering how to do an ignition tune-up. In front of us, we have one of the kits available on fcpo.com, which includes some Bremmy coils and some Bosch spark plugs. This DIY is applicable to your C5 and D2 chassis equipped with the 4.2 liter V8. Interval for the spark plugs is about 60,000 miles. Ignition coils tend to last a little bit longer. That's not to say that you can't get a longer life out of both of these, but it's not uncommon to have an ignition coil fail or a spark plug burn out. Usually you'll get a misfire per fuel economy. You know the mix, my good people. So if you have a misfire, the easiest thing to do is swap around some coils, follow the code. If the code goes with the change of the ignition coil, then you know that your coil is bad. If it remains in the same place, then more than likely it's a spark plug. And if these two items don't fix that, then you're gonna have to do some further diagnosing, but hopefully that's not the case. Now, before we get started on this DIY, let's take a look at some of the tools we're gonna need for this job. All right, my good people, for this job, we have a couple tools here that we actually ran into needing during the DIY. So we are now coming back to you from the future, but the past, but the beginning of the video. Meaning, you're gonna need a torque wrench as well as a 3/8 drive ratchet for this DIY, a long 5/8 extension for the plugs, pretty basic stuff. We have a small extension that we're gonna be using with a 10mm socket. And some of the things that we went ahead and added is just an electrical ratchet to make things a little bit quicker. We have a flathead and a Phillips head. We went ahead and added a small pick to our tool list today. And then this right here, this is CTA 9812. This is a terminal toolkit. It comes with 26 pieces. We're going to be using tool E out of this, and this is going to allow us to repin the connectors on the ignition coil harness. Just due to the age of the car, the mileage, and the heat it's seen, they're pretty brittle. So we're going to show you how to use that, and we'll also link the parts in the description below. But now that we know what tools we're using, let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, my good people, we are under the hood of the S6. The first thing we're going to do is gain access to the ignition coils and plugs. And in order to do that, we have a couple things to get out of our way. We have a couple beauty covers, air inlets, coolant tank, all that good stuff. So pretty straightforward. These covers are held in with these like quarter turn Phillips head screwdriver or screws. They usually remain within the cover, and usually a quarter turn will get you out or in, depending on what kind of condition they're in. These are in pretty good shape, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of give them all a quarter turn. They should just pop up on their own. If not, you might need to give them a little bit of help just to get them out. You can always lift the cover as you do that, and take the cover off and set it to the side. We have a few more on top of the actual cylinders, which we'll take off in just a moment. For now, we're going to move on to the expansion tank. Now, the hardware on your car may be a little bit different. This is one of those things that they can change over time. They can be at Torx. In this case, we have two small Phillips holding it in. So we're going to do both the Phillips. You have one on the front, we have one on the back side, and that'll just allow us to move the expansion tank around so we can get that last ignition coil out. So let's do that one now. While we have you on the side, we'll go ahead and remove this other beauty cover. Same deal, it has two quarter turn Phillips head screws. And that exposes the driver's side bank. Now let's head over to the passenger side and do the same thing. Over on the passenger side, we're just going to pull up this beauty cover. It goes over our air box. This ducting up here is held in by two more pieces of hardware up here on the radiator support. Again, our car is equipped with Phillips, so just be mindful your hardware may change depending on the year of your car and the kind of life it's lived. Sometimes hardware gets lost and you just throw the next best thing that fits in there. All right, with that removed, we should be able to lift up this piece now. It splits into two pieces. One comes off the air box. There's usually a little metal clip on either side that holds these in. Sometimes over time those kind of break off. We have one up front here still, but they just kind of help key in. It just feeds air. And we have this front one, which we can just pull up on gently. Make sure the clips don't fall off. Then we can go ahead and set it to the side. All right, next we're going to work on removing the top half of our airbox lid and some of the intake piping as well. This also kind of applies if you're looking to do an air filter swap out as well. This will be a good time for us to inspect it and see what kind of shape it's in. We're gonna do the boot from up top here. You have a couple options. This one's gonna give us the most room to work with. We don't really need to go all the way down here by the intake manifold. However, we can if you'd like. But for us, this will work here today. Just using a flathead screwdriver to undo this clamp a bit. On the flip side of the mass airflow sensor here, you have a plug. These are pretty standard VAG plugs, the kind of pain in the butt ones. We'll kind of flip this over so we can show you that before we undo it. Coming further down the line, we have a solenoid here. These typically live on top of the airbox. There's a rubber grommet around them. This one's 250,000 miles, seen some age, but typically that sits there like that. You can just pop these up and set it to the side. Lifting this up is going to expose one of the metal clips that holds down the airbox. These just lift up. We can use a small flathead screwdriver if they're a little bit jammed up. We have another one down over here. And then we have a third one down here by the head, which is already undone. Then we have this lower hose here that goes to our lid. We're just going to rotate it a little bit, unlock it. And this is nice and free. And here's a better view of the connector on the mass airflow sensor. Usually there's a tab here that helps lock this into place. This one's seen, again, 250,000 miles of life. Sometimes these things break. So we're just gonna go ahead and pull that off and set this lid to the side. Now we have the last two Phillips head screws that hold down the beauty cover on the passenger side bank. We can go ahead and undo those now. All right, with that removed, we have fully exposed our ignition coils on both sides. You'll see that there's a rail that holds the beauty covers in place. These are held in by two 10mm bolts on either side. So let's grab our 10mm socket, zap those out, and then we can get to the ignition coils. We have our 10mm socket on our electrical ratchet. We're just gonna zap out the two 10s that hold this bracket in place for the beauty cover. Now we're gonna go ahead and disconnect our ignition coils. Now these are pretty standard. You have the tab up top. It helps to push in on the connector first and then pull back out. Once you undo the connector, now we can go ahead and unbolt the ignition coil. This first one also has a small bracket that holds this harness in place. So just be mindful to put that bracket back in place. Two 10mm hold down each of the ignition coils. Once you have those unbolted, you can pull up on the coil. This is a great time to inspect, take a look, see if there's any oil on them. That would be a good indicator that your valve cover gasket is leaking. All right, with the ignition coil off to the side, now we're gonna grab our spark plug socket. Again, for this, you're gonna need a 5/8 socket. We have these ones with a built-in swivel extension from Gear Wrench, which is what I'm gonna use today. Let's go ahead and back this out. And here is our old spark plug. It doesn't look too bad for 70,000 miles. That was the last time these were done, about 72,000 miles. But yeah, that's why we're replacing these today. So pretty standard, nothing to worry about. Tiny amount of oil on the threads, which is expected with a car of this mileage. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and set this one to the side, grab our new Bosch plug and get that in. All right, we have our new plug situated in our spark plug socket. We're gonna go ahead and feed this down very gently. We don't want it to hit the cylinder head and change the gapping or damage anything, the electrode, anything like that. Once you have these spark plugs in place, it's always good practice to reverse the socket a bit, just a few times, just in case it engaged incorrectly or caught a thread in the wrong way when you put it down. And then we're just gonna send it home the rest of the way by hand as far as we can before we grab the torque wrench and torque these down to 30 Newton meters. All right, we have our torque wrench set to 30 Newton meters. There we go. Now with that, we can take our new Bremmy ignition coil. These come with a little bit of electric paste on them already, so you don't need to add any dielectric grease to them. We're just gonna go ahead and set this down. Then for this first one, we have this little tiny tab that sits off the side for the harness. We can grab our two 10mm bolts once more. And for what it's worth, these are longer than the two 10s that we removed for the original bracket. So a little hard to mix them up. All right, with that torque down to 10, now we can go ahead and reconnect our electrical connector once more. All right, with that one done, we're gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing on the rest of the side. and then we'll pick it back up in just a moment. All right, my good people, so we're gonna pivot here for just a hot moment. We're gonna cover this just because this is something you may experience. We're gonna be replacing the connectors on the ignition coil harness that goes to the ignition coil. This plug is used on anything from 2000 Mark IV Golf to a new Chiron, anything that uses this style connector. These are pretty common to fail over time. They get brittle with the heat from the engine bay. That's exactly what happened to these. I already did these other three, but we're gonna go ahead and show you how to do it on one of these. This one's fairly broken, which is what prompted me to wanna check the rest of them, and sure enough, the housings are completely torn up. You can take a quick look at this one. The whole inside of it that holds the actual pins just broke off. The actual weather stripping is still fine, but then the pink locking tools, or the pink locking clips that act as extra insurance, those literally just turned to dust the second I touched them to go unlock them. So I'm going to show you how to do them. We're using a D-pin tool. This is tool E out of our CTA kit, which we're going to go ahead and link in the description below. There are a bunch of different options out there. You need something that has two little forks like this to really unlock the pins. So tool E out of that kit's going to be our move here, along with a small pick. So what we're going to do with the small pick is first unlock the connector. So you have this pink clip in here, which we were just talking about, that acts as insurance to hold the pins in place. So these you just pull out. You can also use them, you can also free them up from the inside here just to unlock the tool. So this is our new plug, which is going to be ready to roll in just a moment. We'll set that to the side. Doing the same thing over here, you can see the pink clip is completely exposed just because this part of the connector broke when we were undoing it. You can also see the center of it is super wobbly, ready to break probably by the time we finished depinning it here. So we'll pull those out. I'm gonna make sure I don't confuse this with one of the new ones. Then we'll take our depin tool. I recommend you do these one at a time. It's very easy to mix up the cables. However, if you do one at a time, then you have another reference to look at. In this case, all our yellow and brown cables are plug number 4. Plug number 3 changes throughout them. Some of them are white and green, some of them are white and blue. For plug number 3, and this one it's brown and green. And we have plug number 2, which is white and brown, and then plug number 1, which is red and green, which is the same for the rest. So keeps it nice and easy. We're going to take the depin tool and feed it in through the front. That's going to unlock both of the tabs on the top and bottom of the pin here. So we'll try to keep this in one piece to kind of show you what that should look like. Once we have the tool all the way in, from the back side, we can pull the wire out. And if you take a very close look, you'll see that there's a little tab on the top of that pin, and that's what this tool is actually pushing down on. So when this goes in via the front, it's just compressing the tab on the top and the bottom so that it can be pulled out from the plastic housing. So we'll keep that one off to the side. Do the same thing for the other 3. Getting a little tricky just because this connector is literally falling apart as I'm holding it here. There's number 2. I'm going to free these last 2 up together and pull them out together. They're a little bit bigger gauge wire, so they're a little bit stiffer. There we go. And then this literally just fell apart the rest of the way while we were undoing it. Now we'll take our new connector, and if you can, try to feed these in one at a time. These are nice and tight together, so we'll do both of them. You want to listen for an audible click once they seat in all the way in. So we should hear 2 clicks on this one. There's 1, there's 2. They only go in one way. They don't go in sideways. They have to go in top and bottom. They pretty much stay in the position they came out as long as you don't mess with the wiring too much while you have it apart. So again, we're listening for the click. There we go. And the last one. And if you need to, sometimes they don't line up, just rotate the wire around or the clip a bit, the connector, and you'll get it. There we go. Doing a visual inspection of the front, you can see the faces of the pins all nice and buttoned up right there. Before I go ahead and lock them in with the pink with the pink lock, I'm just going to put it on. let it clip on, take it off once more. None of the pins moved, which is great. Now we're just gonna throw in that pink lock for insurance. Feed it in through the side. Push it in all the way. And now we're good to rock. This whole bank is done. So for now, we're just gonna go ahead and blast through the driver's side. You might see me moving this expansion tank a bit once we get to that, which we already took the hardware out for, and then we'll pick it back up in just a moment. With our harness all done up on this side, we can go ahead and reinstall our bracket. This is a bracket that helps hold our beauty covers in place. Two 10mm bolts, and just like the ignition coils, if you're gonna torque them down, no more than 10 Newton meters. All right, my good people, while I have you here, we're gonna go ahead and swap out this air filter. There's no sense in putting this car back together with this dirty filter in place. So we have a new Hengst off the shelf, which we'll also link below for those of you looking to do the same as us today. So you can see this one's pretty crusty. It's seen its fair share. It's only 3 years old, so just regular use. And they get a little dirty, so let's get our new Hengst. And we'll also get some of this crud out. All right, we went ahead and just vacuumed out the air box real quickly. There was some debris in there. We have a nice new Hengst air filter ready to rock and roll. So we'll go ahead and feed that in. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our beauty cover on first on this side. With the two tabs lined up, we can go ahead and lock in our cover now, just using the flathead here to give it a turn and lock them in. There we go. Now we can take the top half of our air box, get that situated in place, and just feel it all the way around, make sure that it situates itself around the hole. There we go. Mass airflow sensor can get plugged back in. All right. This little rubber tab we're gonna lift up, get our lock situated on our air box first, and then this little rubber grommet would go around this tab. That keeps that in place. Don't forget about the little elbow down below. Just get a little bit of a quarter turn to get it on and off. Now we can go ahead and tighten down our clamp. I'm just gonna use a flathead screwdriver once more to tighten this down. All right, that's nice and snug, that's plugged in. That's good to rock. We'll leave the last feed pipe until after. So now with that, let's go ahead and hop into the driver's side and work on the same thing. Like I said, you'll see us move the expansion tank a bit once we get to that point, but we'll also redo the electrical connectors and all that good stuff. And we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the coolant level sensor, same style connector as the ignition coil, it's just a different size. Tab here, go ahead and push in, pull out. Let's see if it'll play nicely. There we go. And that will allow us to tuck this expansion tank over to the side, and now we have plenty of room to work. So with that, let's get to it. All right, on the driver's side, with our expansion tank out of the way, the steps are gonna be identical. So with that, let's get to it. We have our beauty cover back on. We can go ahead and re-plug back in our coolant level sensor. If you swing this back over, okay. We can also reinstall the 3 Phillips head screws that hold on this expansion tank. Again, keep in mind your hardware may change for your personal vehicle. This car is equipped with Phillips screws right now. All right, back on the passenger side, we're gonna just button up the rest of the beauty covers. We opted to leave this feed piece for the end, just so we can kind of install everything in the reverse that we took it off. So I'm gonna feed the front piece back in first. Make sure your little clips are on for the hardware that goes up front here. Like that. This can go on back here. And we can feed this piece back onto the lid of our air box, just like so. And we'll take our 2 Phillips head screws and get those started as well. Just gonna reach in from underneath the rad support to help line this up and get the bolt holes situated. We can put this beauty cover back up over our air box lid. Then we can put on our center beauty cover once more. All right, my good people. And with that, that is going to conclude this DIY for today. Overall, a pretty easy and straightforward job on the 4.2 V8. Again, keep in mind those old electrical connectors for the ignition coils can wear out over time. Like you saw in this example, this $250,000 beast, they were pretty dry rotted, so we had to go ahead and replace them. Those tools, again, are going to be linked in the description below. Same with the connectors if you need them yourself. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.